there is a talent and supply gap, and that's going to impact how we think about states' ability to deliver infrastructure. We've taken a cut at just the bipartisan infrastructure law and tried to put that into place around where and how we think about that talent, the talent need and the talent peak associated with funding actually moving out the door and onto the street. At the same time, we've had the privilege of working with some of my colleagues at the McKinsey Global Institute on the macroeconomic factors that are also compounding this. So thinking about labor supply issues, impact of wage increases, that on top of additional materials challenges, equipment challenges, and competition from the private sector, which is also massively investing in infrastructure across the nation. And then finally, how do you think about how all of these things come together to impact cost, schedule, and obviously the types of safety, reliability, accessibility, affordability objectives that you have across your major capital program and major projects?
We had something happen recently. I spoke to one of our regional directors at the Ohio Department of Regional Capital Program Administrators, Tom Slack, up in Delaware, Ohio. He said he had a couple of engineering spots, transportation engineering positions open for 3 months. No bites because of all the competition we're talking about. Then he opened up a couple of environmental science technician positions, 40 applicants for 2 positions. Young people are passionate about environmental. We talked to community action agencies, and we talked to the Urban League, we talked to the NAACP, we talked to Hard Hatted Women, we talked to Appalachian Regional Development Council. All these are people and organizations who have clients who are seeking jobs, who are seeking seeking a wage that will help them better their lives. And of course, we know a key aspect of your frontline transportation worker, whether you call them a highway maintenance worker or a highway technician, that's having a CDL Class A. So with our Opportunities, Diversity, and Inclusion program at the Ohio Department of Transportation, we have basically funded community groups and even private sector organizations that offer CDL programs and also offer on-the-job training for people interested in working in with the Ohio Department of Transportation. And we are working with the prison system in Ohio. We very much believe in restored citizens being part of the workforce. We have members of my team. We have members out in our regional offices who are restored citizens, and they are really knocking it out of ballpark in terms of their performance. They want that chance. They want that opportunity to contribute to society. And we're also working very much with our veterans. We have in the Toledo area, we have 33 veterans in one county.
Just keep your hand up if you're having problems recruiting as well. Yeah, we're in this together, I think. And, when I talk to our ACEC and some of our partners who, might pay a little bit more than we are, they're having the exact same issues as they approach the workforce and the problems that they're trying to solve. So everyone's probably aware of the generational construct that we have. And while it speaks to the overall population, there's no doubt that there's an impact to our workforce. And I think Shannon shared that as well. So a little bit, this is a repeat. But to frame our talent deficit, I think it's important to take a quick look at what might be causing the issue. And this is a Pew chart that I looked at a couple of years ago, and I always keep it. You can see that our youngest boomer was 55 in 2019, according to this chart, making them about 59 or 60 today. And the average retirement age for us is approximately 64. So that means most of the boomers will be out of the workforce in the next 4 years. The problem is there's not enough Gen Xers to fill those boomers that are departing so rapidly. And they peaked at 72 million, and Gen Xers are at 65. So the only other option is to replace with those millennials, as we described, and they're barely coming of age for the more mid-level and senior level positions. So I suspect what we've been experiencing is the entry level, there's challenges, but getting people in those mid-level is really, really difficult. They're going to need time, they're going to need training, they're going to need workforce development. The problem is we need them now. And you couple this with the decline in civil engineering enrollments and the increase in civil engineering demands with the IIJA and other things that are going on around the world, including revenue packages and boom, you got this major problem that everyone is experiencing. So I want to talk a little bit about our media outreach, and I feel like this has been a really huge success for us as well. This is not something we've ever done at this scale. And in the latter part of 2022, we ran a campaign with our local King 5 media group. And we looked at the demographics, and we felt like, I mean, who doesn't like the Seattle Seahawks, right? But, you know, when you look at the demographics of the people that are the viewership, you know, people universally agree on, you know, football, of course. So we were able to take advantage of the King 5's exclusive partnership with the Seattle Seahawks, and it reached that real diverse audience. But through this partnership, AASHTO was able to run non-skippable ads on various media platforms, including broadcast and streaming, as well as on what we know today to be X and Facebook. And throughout the duration of the NFL campaign from August of 22 to January 2023, an average of 50% of our traffic to our jobs page came from that King 5 media source.
We have the typical type recruiting that I'm sure you all do, where you drive to a college and you set up a booth and you sit there and you talk to the students. And what we're doing, and I'm sure many of you do as well, is you take your engineers with you, and your engineers get to tell our war stories, right? So you pick the ones that are passionate, who have great stories to tell. The other thing we started doing is something called a campus takeover, where we go in and we'll take over a class, typically an introduction to civil engineering type class, and we start to show the students, you know, what it is that we do. And if you came to work at GDOT, what would that look like? Getting into retention. Once you get into Georgia DOT as an engineer, we're going to continue to develop you. And what does that look like? Well, obviously, we have these organizations, great organizations like AASHTO, that you can get involved with. The Governor's Office of Highway Safety have several different task forces that if they tickle your fancy, by all means, get involved. But then we do this training. One of the newest things that we've started is the School of PE, which I'm super excited about. The School of PE has an excellent pass rate for both the fundamentals of engineering exam and the professional engineering exam. And so we're pouring into these engineers as they come in. If they don't already have the EIT, which is the engineer in training certificate that you get from passing the fundamentals of engineering exam, then we'll get you there. And if you get there, then we'll start to develop you and get you ready to take the professional engineer's exam.
So a little bit about who we are. Our association's mission and vision is to attract, sustain, connect, and advance women. I know we probably have a few members that are even in the room here today. When we talk about building a passionate workforce, we have to think about policies that we are adopting, not only in transportation, but in kind of the greater labor market. And policy doesn't just mean what comes from Capitol Hill at the federal level, right? So this means equal pay, attention to gender issues in ED&I initiatives, training investments, and more. It means building with all in mind. If a group is not considered in the systems we are creating, how can we expect them to work for that same system? It means battling misconceptions at the root. Women are taught from an early age to be afraid of public systems and spaces. And that, you know, even though we've heard it for a long time, there is still this idea that is taught in many schools and kind of reinforced in our communities that girls aren't good at STEM, girls aren't good at math. All of this is amplified also when we talk about women of color. So if you're growing up with this thought process, how will we expect you to come work for our systems that we're trying to build? It means repairing the broken rung through sponsoring, not just mentoring, and putting your name behind candidates for jobs and promotions. WTS is known for being a really great place to build mentorships. And I think we still think that's highly valuable in WTS and in the state DOT workplace. But we also like to talk about sponsorship. A mentor is someone who shares their knowledge and provides guidance. A sponsor is someone who actively promotes your growth. They provide access to opportunities. They bring you into jobs. You get to put your name behind a candidate. And that really advances those careers and kind of helps to step over that broken rung.
First, you know, we heard some of the data about workforce shortages. Just, you know, obviously for the construction industry, to some extent, we're competing with you guys for a similar pool of workforce. So I'm sorry if we're overpaying. But to the extent we're inextricably linked, right? We can't build our projects if you guys don't have enough staff to approve them, inspect them, check on our work. And if we don't have enough people, then the projects that you guys want to get built take longer, cost more money. So we're kind of all in this together when it comes to workforce development. We actually survey our members every year to figure out, a little bit more about why do we have workforce shortages. It's actually less a question of the number of people who are applying for positions in construction, as much as it is the fact that most people who are coming in the door to apply don't have the basic hard or soft skills to actually hold a position in construction. We have essentially failed to properly educate a whole generation of workers about some of the skills they need to be involved. For every dollar the feds invest in career and technical education, they invest $5 in encouraging people to go to college and work in the service sector, or go become consultants, or work for trade associations, in fairness. So, we are at a real advantage. We've disadvantaged, and we've essentially dismantled what was once a robust pipeline for attracting people to careers in things like construction and transportation. So we're working to kind of change that. So we spent a lot of time lobbying, and we have two main priorities when it comes to workforce development, when it comes to lobbying with the federal government. First is to fix that funding gap. We need to sort of shrink or grow how much we're investing as a nation in career and technical education. Everything from looking at ways to make 529 funds more widely available, to expand eligibility for Pell Grants, and also to just increase investments in career and technical education programs so that most high school students will actually graduate and be aware of the fact that there are career opportunities in construction and in transportation. So the long-term play, the long game, is boosting funding and getting more high school students exposed to career and technical education, to career paths in construction and transportation. The short-term play, at least for construction, I don't know if this translates directly for state DOTs, is immigration reform. We have long been champions of comprehensive immigration reform. If we don't want our kids to work in construction, we should at least allow other people the opportunity to work in construction. We can't build infrastructure but not want our own kids to work in construction and not want anyone to come to the country to work in construction. That's just policy insanity. So we are staunch advocates for immigration reform as a short-term measure while we reinvigorate the pipeline for recruiting and encouraging a new generation of high-paid construction workers in this country.